Thank you guys, and thank you everyone. It's great to be back here and speaking English. I've been doing this in Spanish for a while now. Took me a while to get used to the speaking Unity Spanish, and now I'm back to English. So if you hear something in Spanish, bear with me. So as everybody already knows, we've been fully engaged in the study of this book, Power of Eight. And not only, it's not like a traditional book study where there's a lot of dialogue or discussion. We have really put a lot of emphasis on experiencing and practicing. For those of you who might not be in a group or not reading the book, no worries, I'm gonna catch you up. I would like to do like a quick summary of some of the facts about the book, and then I'm gonna get into some of my own personal insights. So you know Lynn McTaggart, it's a journalist who is considered to be one of the top authorities in the area of intention and one of the most influential spiritual figures of these times. At least she claims that in the book. She's written several books besides The Power of Eight, The Intention Experiment, and The Field. And it's interesting to see that as she goes deeper into doing all of these experiments, she really steps it up to do like a global type of experiment. She had been traveling all around the world, so she knew a lot of people and connections, and she managed to assemble a group of scientists, neuroscientists, psychologists, statisticians. Did I say it correct? Statisticians. and create these experiments with hundreds of thousands of people, working with one thought, one intention in a specific target, in a specific time, either physically or virtually. And they did 30 of this, and 26 of them was like really amazing results, and she believes that the 4 that didn't really had technical issues. So like she says, it's really amazing that these results were even better statistically than most of the drugs that our pharmaceuticals create. In truth, we know that the study of how critical mass can impact the physical world is not really something new, and people like the Transcendental Meditation have a lot of research to prove that. But what's really amazing and new is that she decided on scaling it down to a group of 8, like an impulse type of thing in her conferences. And then she started seeing amazing, remarkable results with people who had no specific experience, no specific method, not that every group had a shaman or a guru there, and the results were outstanding. So this is essentially what this work is all about. Then I was asking myself, is this lady really saying anything new that we have not heard of, having been in Unity for a while, that is like the core of the Unity philosophy, that we can impact our circumstances, our experience, but by the way we think, that we are not doomed or powerless beings, that we have all the attributes that God has are us. Even the founder of this movement, co-founder Myrtle Fillmore, she healed from a tuberculosis condition that after being told that she had 6 months to live. The third unity principle talks about, this idea that we are co-creators, that thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. When we do the study of the 12 powers, and I'm doing that in my Spanish ministry, I'm going to do a short commercial, so stay for 1:30 if you want to hear something. It will be a different lesson, but join me if you want. Of course, you can choose to go to Dr. Marsha's workshop, which will be probably better than mine, but anyways, in the Spanish ministry, we've been doing the 12 powers and working with the power of imagination and faith, and it's the same thing. When we think of Jesus, and Jesus preached about faith, and a faith that didn't have to be that big, a grain of mustard could really be enough to tell the mountain to move, and the mountain will move. I was thinking this morning of my own experience going through the cancer, where I don't know why my dad used this quote, the scripture, Matthew 9:29, that says, Jesus said to the servant, "Let it be done according to your faith." And the servant was healed within an hour. And each time I would call my dad, he would say, "Are you that servant? Let it be done according to your faith." So it's really, at some level, it's not really a major discovery according to me. However, we need to understand that it might be new to us according to whatever experience we're going through, or that we are at a different level of awareness. And there might be something in that work that it feels like new, or feels like something that we heard it in a way, or we practice in a way that it made more sense, or it feels more applicable. Also, that we need to be aware that we are all constantly bombarded by a collective consciousness that is grounded on a state of separation and fear. So we might be these amazing students of truth, how we call ourselves in unity, and we can do all this practice and be so centered and manifest so many beautiful things, but we're still living in a world that many people feel doesn't feel like that, especially events like this last week with Florida shooting. It's really challenging many times, if we're not solidly grounded on truth, to see evil out there, and to develop fear and concern, and develop this sense of powerlessness. And the more we live in that outer world, and the less we live in our own inner worlds, the more prone we are to give power to what seems powerful out there. And as we give it more power, then that has power over us. So then all these book studies and work really help us get recentered on what is true. Many times also we know this is true in certain areas of our lives where we go, well, like I've had a lot of people come to me and say, I have no problem in manifesting a great job and being successful in my career, but I just have so much trouble in a fulfilling relationship. And sometimes many of us feel that this intention work or prayer work functions in certain areas of our lives, but might be limited to others. So in other words, consciousness, like physical fitness, needs training and attention. So I would like to share with you what my own insights on Lynn McTaggart's work has been, and I'm going to refer to her 8-step Power of 8, Power Up. She says, before you do this work, you need to power up. And you'll get a slide that will soon be showing up. She offers 8 steps that you might be or not be familiar with. I'm going to tell you what out of that list, some of the things are new to me, or fairly new. Other things are validations, and there's one thing that I'm not buying completely, and I will tell you why. So the first one, the new stuff is like, I enter into my intention space, and her research has proven that space matters. And it's interesting because you wonder, really? So it means that if I do my prayer work in the same location, probably with the same people, it will be more effective? Well, according to her, it has. And it's interesting because in our Tuesday group, we had once our beautiful Sandy explain to us how the whole logic behind this idea is that there's like a force field is created when You stay in the same room with the same people. It's like an energy, like a sense of awareness, which can be really powerful. And I guess we experience it here. And I was relating it to silent unity. I don't know if you've had an experience of being able to walk into the silent unity area, but you feel something big is happening there. And after 125 years of constant prayer, you can imagine the vibration that is out there. So that's, to me, is like, okay, I've been doing my radio shows and my sacred prayer circle in my walk-in closet, so I guess something miraculously is happening there. I will tell you more later. The other idea that it's somewhat new, it's the idea of choosing the right time when I'm happy and well. I love Teilhard de Chardin, a former Jesuit priest, who used to say that joy is the unfailing sign of the presence of God. So it means that when you and I are happy, it's you're expressing God. And it's funny because recently I received an email from the universe saying that joy was the quickest way to your dreams. And think about it, why would that be? And when you really think deeper, you realize that when you're happy, you're like fear-free. You're flowing, you have this sense of all is well. You're trusting. And of course, that has to work better, because when we're doing intentional prayer work, it's really faith is the energy that is going to fuel it. So if we're not in that vibration, it means that we're creating blockages. Another idea that is fairly new is the idea of using all the senses. And I don't know if for you, but for me, when we talk about the power of imagination or the power of visualization, you tend to go with the graphic images. And you have that picture or movie I've done where I create my own movie. But through time, I have realized that I really have to bring all the other senses, especially the feeling one. So I'm with her there that when you connect with that energy, how it's feeling, you're visualizing that is in your heart to co-create, but it's like how you're feeling. It's a state where it's already happening at the feeling level. So I'm with her there, and that made me realize that in this type of work, I need to bring all of me. Then one specific thing that I'm validating, that I know it's true, but she's giving it more validation, is the last one that talks about the power of the surrender. It's what in Unity we say, let go and let God, right? In a way, it's ironic because it's like, okay, you're going to engage with all your energy, all your senses, all your intention, your time, your attention into that desire, and then you drop it? Yes, but that's what she says. You have to drop it and let it go. And I compare it to like, okay, you're making a cake and you're like spending all this time with the recipe, you put it in the oven, and then every 5 minutes you open to see how it's going. It will really interfere. And the truth of the matter is that when we surrender, we are letting this universal force we call God to handle it. But if we intervene, we might not get the same results, because when you and I are intervening and we are into controlling, it means we're in fear. And fear is what blocks. Fillmore used to say that fear invites disaster. So that's a validation for me about the surrendering. Then she also mentions in the book, and I don't know if she has it here, no, it's not, but she talks about how the results were not really related to how big or small the groups were, whether they were virtual or physical. But what really mattered was the experience of the intenders. And she says that she got the best results with groups of people who were practice meditators or healers. And think of why would that be so? Because again, is consciousness. If you have people who are like they're in the state of awareness that they know about the love of God, they know about the power of God, they know that nothing is resistant to that love and to that energy, and they hold that together from that space of pure knowing, it's definitely going to have an impact. I was sharing this morning how when I saw this movie by Tom Hanks, Castaway, I always say, what, if that would happen to me, what would I do? Or even if I had other people there in that deserted strand, I would be stranded in an island. Who do I want to be with, to survive? And I tell myself, well, I want people with a higher state of consciousness. I don't want people to be, people to that believe that it is only money the one that supplies, or it is only medicine the one that heals. I want people who stand on the truth that it doesn't matter what external circumstances, it is the consciousness of God that supplies your good. Not that I would reject others, but this is in my own fantasy mind, right? And then I'm like, well, if that would be so, then you have to be stronger in your conviction, in your state of awareness, to almost counteract the doubts of others, to just bring that on. And then as I was thinking of that, I was reminded of my friend, Reverend Julie. She's one of my beautiful friends and mentors. And years ago, she went to Peru, to the Machu Picchu. And she said that she had an amazing time, and the last day of her trip, they said that you could go up the mountain with a shaman. And most people didn't want to get up at 5:30 in the morning. She only went with somebody else and the shaman, and they went hiking up the mountain. And he was talking to them. She says, when we get to the top of the mountain, we're going to see a condor. And my friend was like, looking around, I don't see how that will show up. But the shaman gets up there and just prays and says, there's the condor. And the condor showed up. And as she was discussing it with me, she was like, Anna, that shaman had a level of consciousness to counter all my own doubts. But then, of course, I'm a faithful person, so maybe my energy also helped, right? So levels of awareness do matter. That's why we need to work on our own so that we can impact more. And then the last thing that I'm not in agreement, sorry, Lynn. A couple of years ago, we engaged in the study of the surrender experiment by Michael Singer. And I don't know if you know about the story, but this particular person started meditating from an early age, and he fell in love with meditation, and that's what he did in the woods. And he made the conscious decision that he was just going to trust life and just be okay with whatever would show up. Even if he didn't like it, he was just going to agree to. And the book is about the story of his own life. Ultimately, he makes it to the big leagues. He founds this software company and becomes multimillionaire. Not that that was all, because he was a fulfilled person. But he never did any intention work. Or I want this to be by this time or whatever. And then Lynn McTaggart writes a book the intention experiment. So I'm like, okay, so how do we get the two together, right? Do we intend and surrender, or what? Should we be specific, or should we be general? And she says, be specific. Well, my answer to that, based on my own experience, is that we need to be specific with the essence of what we want. But the details, we let them go. And I ask, why should I, with my current level of awareness, intend to orchestrate it myself when I have access to the highest intelligence and the highest power, and I can delegate that? Why should I intervene? I like to think that I have a high layer of consciousness, but there's a lot of things I still have to understand, and I have to trust that that other presence, that higher presence within me, can do it better than me. So I have a story to share from my own life and how that was like the biggest lesson. And I'm speaking to you from my own experience. We had just made the decision of relocating to Raleigh. After, you know the story, I had was diagnosed with cancer. We had lost our jobs, family situations. And we had made the decision of relocating to the Triangle area by faith, because if we wanted to move to the mainland, we had family and friends all over, but not in North Carolina. But still the heart said, no, it's there in Raleigh. And my husband came before I did, and I went back with the kids to get them through the end of the school year and come back. So in that process of transition, of course, none of us, neither him or I, I'm working. I'm already cancer-free, but I still had to finish up my radiation process. I was bald, and all of that. So we were praying for the right and perfect job to show up for him, because I couldn't work immediately, and besides, I had told myself I'm not going to go back into business. I'm going to either teach or do ministry, but I'm not going to be a businesswoman anymore. I'm fed up. Although I'm doing some business here, right? It's always. So we're doing all this prayer work, and we are just getting lousy job interviews. When he managed to get a nicer job interview, he got sick, he couldn't make it. And we had we had to make a decision. He needed to, we were on our own, and we had to move forward. So he took the only job that was offered to him that was a commission-based. It was not too exciting, but that's what showed up, and he took it. I know that at moments like that, you are so prone to think, oh, this intention work doesn't work, or something was wrong here. But somehow we were like, okay, this is maybe a little like Michael Singer. This is what showed up, go for it. So he started working there. Soon I find out at the hospital that my insurance had issues with in the Duke system, so I had to pay in cash if I wanted to continue my treatment. And but Spirit is so great that I was led to the right and perfect person from Duke, and she said, well, if you fill out this hardship application, are you working? No. Is your husband working? Yeah, but... So with the level of salary he had at the moment and all the conditions, we were approved for every type of help. So I managed to finish up my treatment and was left with any medical debt. And once that happened, another job showed up, paying him the triple of what he was making. And that was like such a big lesson for us, because we were able to see that the manifestation did not come in the way and form we were expecting it, but that did not mean that God was not working through the whole situation. So our biggest lesson then was put all of your intention and into the essence and surrender the rest and trust the process. Sometimes the cake might take longer than usual, and we need to make it okay, right? So whatever we hear, something that I have very clear in my heart. It's like I hear something that seems reasonable and truth, I have to validate it in my own heart. There's a quote that I found that says, "You are your own teacher. Looking for teachers can't resolve your own doubts. Investigate yourself to find truth, inside, not outside. Knowing yourself is most important." So that's why I'm like, Lynn, okay, I take it, but this is my own experience, and I'm just sharing it with you. But then at the end of everything, of this whole book study, if we already know in a way that we have been exposed to these ideas and this practice, to me, it's like the biggest contribution or biggest takeaway we can get out of everything is to see if this has inspired us to take action. And I'm going to ask you something. What would it take for each person here to belong to, and many of you already have, but to belong to a small group or to be part of our sacred prayer circle or prayer chaplains? What could be more important than sparing some time of your week, of your life, into doing spiritual work with other people? What else? When we hear about, things happening, and it hit me particularly deeper because one of my childhood friends' daughter goes to that school, and she calls me up yesterday and she says, "Anna, what do I do? What do I tell my daughter?" And I said, well, one presence, one power, and everything works for a higher good. And sometimes we don't need to suffer to grow, but suffering is always a doorway to go deeper and to be more receptive to the truth in a different way. So then my call is for you to put it in your to-do list. Back in my business years, I remember finance teachers saying, "Cash is king. Cash is more important than your mother." And that's the fifth principle in unity. Doing prayer work and doing it with others is king. If you really want to be and make a difference. And our prayer practice by our own matters, and it's really important. But what I'm learning in my own life, and being here and being in the Tuesday group and I do a Spanish guided meditation every Wednesday night for the last 6 years, every week. It's that you go into another dimension when you're sharing that path. And you're bringing that energy with all the others, because there will be times where you fall and you need other people to lift you up. And that's how we really co-create a beautiful, beautiful world that we feel proud of being in it. So I just feel like ending this lesson with a song, because I like to use Maestro to the max. And I like Tim and Lydia to the max. So Maestro, why don't we bring the amazing things, and I want people to really get into this energy of being a force of power in this universe for good and light. And I'm looking at our beautiful outreach director who's a master in doing that. Karen, thank you. So let's sing again, but we're going to sing from the deepest, deepest, deepest of our hearts.
Amazing, you will do amazing things. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing. You will do amazing
One. Thank you, God, and thank you all. And so it is. Okay. So talking about being the light and making a difference, I would like to officially thank everybody who really supported our Parrandón party over Christmas, because we managed to raise $1,500 for Puerto Rico. Things are getting so much better, but there's still like 40% of the island without power. And there's little towns in the island that are still struggling. I know it for a fact, but through my radio show that I have there, people write to me, and so our consciousness matters and our help matters. So our beautiful Karen Thorson, who made a prayer book a couple of years ago for Haiti, we are doing one for Puerto Rico. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is that we want you to write a prayer. So the prayers that are part of this book or will be part of this book will be your prayers. And so if you get inspired, hopefully you will, write it out and send it to Karen Thorson. That's her email. And we're gonna give them like a month to do this, but before Easter, we have to get going, because then we have to print and everything else, and we'll sell it to raise funds from Puerto Rico. With that in mind, let's all then hold our love offering, whether it's in your hand or in your heart. Many of us are consistent givers. Remember that there's plenty of opportunities for you to have automated giving, and also you can text your help. But just remember that each dollar that you give